Well, you're listening to True News, your alternative source for global news, analysis, and commentary. I'm Rick Wiles. Economic collapse and world war, the two subjects I talk about the most on this program. I know some listeners probably wish I'd move on to something else, but I assure you these two topics will change your world in the coming days. We're living in unprecedented times. There's never been the possibility of a worldwide systemic collapse of the entire banking system. Power, wealth, and influence are shifting from the west to the east. The world geopolitical order is in motion, and nobody really knows where it's going and what it's going to look like in the future. We're coming up on an important date, September 12th. That's the day the German court will rule on the constitutionality of the EU bailout mechanism. As I said yesterday, if the court rules in favor of the bailout, I expect the euro to get a brief reprieve from the executioner's chopping block. But if the court strikes down Germany's participation in the bailout scheme, as I said yesterday, it's Katie bar the door. The EU grand plan is dead. At that point, the only thing the Western elitists can do to hold on to power is to start a big war. For weeks, the Israeli news media has been beating the war drums that Iran will be ready to build a nuke by October 1st. And that Mr. Netanyahu is eager to pull the trigger in October to start the war. All of this reminds me of Charlton Heston in The Planet of the Apes shouting, "It's a madhouse!" Well, the man who can make sense of this madness is on the telephone. I'm talking about Mr. Gerald Celente, the world's foremost trends forecaster. I recommend that you subscribe to his publication, The Trends Journal. The website is trendsresearch.com. Gerald, I feel like I've watched this movie one other time. What are they getting ready to do?
Well, you have watched it one other time. Not live, but you read about it. It was called The Crash of 1929. It was followed by the Great Depression. And then it was followed by currency wars, trade wars, and World War II. And you're looking at it again. It's the Panic of '08. It's the Great Recession/Depression. There's a depression going on. I mean, who are they kidding? The only reason you don't see people out in the streets is, on bread lines, is they have food stamps. It keeps them quiet. And you have currency wars going on. No matter what they're trying to do in Brazil, the real keeps plunging. As with the rupee in India, it's not worth anything. And they're trying to stop people from buying gold over there as well. Can you imagine India? The high watermark of people buying gold, and they're trying to stop them. And then you look at what's going on with China, with the yuan, and how the politicians are saying that China's keeping the yuan artificially low. So the currency wars are going on, and as well the trade wars, they're heating up. And so too is World War. You have seen this before. The names are different. The players are different. Really, the fundamentals are not very different. You mentioned about Iran. Iran is the Japan of the 1930s. People don't know, of course, they keep it out of the history books, how the United States and the Netherlands and other countries were doing things in the UK that was making it impossible for Japan to buy natural resources. And why? Well, Japan was like China. They were undercutting everybody on the global trade markets. They were doing things efficiently and cheaply. So, that was a good reason to stop them. The same thing is going on with Iran. The United States and NATO have effectively declared war against Iran.
And that's what these economic sanctions are.
Exactly.
They're acts of war.
They're acts of war. Could you imagine if Iran had the power to say to America, no one could do business with America? Because America might get, 15,000 nuclear warheads instead of 10,000? And maybe I'm underestimating by 20,000. So, no, this is war. And there's war going on. What does it take for people to add it up? I mean, it's like I want to say, okay, girls and boys, get out the yellow legal pad. Yeah, remember when they used to use those before everybody was looking at their hand and tapping it with a little handheld in it? And put on one side the pros and other side the cons. Let's look at the cons. War in Yemen, war in Syria, war in Bahrain, civil war in Greece. That's right. 24% unemployment rate officially. Riots continually, running out the immigrants. People are committing suicide. Same thing over there in Spain. Millions of indignados taking to the streets. 25% unemployment rate, 50% unemployment rate among youth. There are riots going on around the world. China, 1.2 billion people, and they got a million problems. They don't keep this thing going. You see what happens. The people start rioting. There's a world war going on. People are not adding it up. Morocco, Egypt, Tunisia. And you mentioned the Middle East is about to explode. And if Israel attacks Iran, it's the beginning of World War III. And let's get this really, really clear. The United States military has not won a major victory since World War II. And they just got defeated in Iraq, and they're on their way to losing Afghanistan. And now they're coming up with more grand plans on how they're going to win in the Middle East. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. There are another level of politicians. They continue to be emboldened by their failures.
Gerald, I maintain that there is an entity above national governments that is using the blood of American men for a hidden agenda.
Well, I came back from Germany, and, I was going to leave this country. And I've been looking around the world. I was down in Argentina and Chile and Uruguay, and I travel the world, and I'm looking to get out of here. I speak out, and there are a lot of people that don't care for what I have to say because it goes against their ideology and threatens to uncover their lies. And I said to myself, I landed in Berlin. We're opening up the Trends Journal and the Trends Research Institute division there. And I was given a quick tour by my colleagues there of Berlin, and something was troubling me right away. And I said, by the afternoon, I put it together. I said, this place was grander than Paris before it was bombed down. It had the wide boulevards, the sidewalks broad enough that we have cafe tables and people walking and bicycling on the sidewalks. That's how wide they are. Wide boulevards, no buildings probably taller than 15 stories, lights shining in everywhere. Beautiful boulevards, trees, green space all around, parks. And you see these buildings from the late 1800s, and then all new construction, and then another old building from maybe 1908. And the same thing keeps replaying itself. Old buildings like bookends with new construction hastily built post-World War II between them. And I started thinking to myself, these were the Germans. They had to be at the height of Western culture in the 1930s. I mean, when you look at the list of Germans from the past, Bach, Beethoven, Goethe, Einstein, Freud, we like them or not, Marlene Dietrich, Fritz Lang. I mean, these are the Germans. Quality, engineering, brilliance. How could they let a two-bit freak destroy their country? And then I said to myself, I'm talking about what you're talking about, the higher order and what's destroying this nation. And then I'm of Italian descent. I mean, not for nothing. Puccini, Rossini, Michelangelo, Da Vinci, architecture, and we do a lot better than the Germans. How could they let a cartoon character like Mussolini destroy their country? And then, I came back to America, and there's a building, one building removed from mine, the 1750s Franz Rogan House, on the most historic corner in the USA, the only place on each corner where there's a pre-revolutionary stone building in perfect repair. And there was a for sale sign on it. And I said, I'm buying it. I'm not running away. There are freaks everywhere. What is it in the human spirit that allows these two-bit freaks to destroy great nations and people? What is it where people lose their courage, their dignity, their respect, their integrity and passion to be ruled by two-bit freaks? I said, I'm staying until it becomes dangerous to me, and then I'll leave, because I'm not going to die for a cause. I don't believe in that. But when you said there's a higher order, you know, what is it? Is there a Satan? I mean, is there, you know, does evil always win? I don't mean it in the religious sense. I mean it in the pure philosophical and human sense. What is it? What is it that allows great people be destroyed by freaks? And I have to tell you, whether it's Bush or Cheney, Obama or Romney, Clinton's, you go down the list, it's a two-bit freak show to me. And then when I say this, people say, they argue, my freak is better than your freak that you like. They get angry at you because you don't like their freak.
And they put bumper stickers on their cars for their freak.
Yeah. So when you say something higher, I agree with you. Much higher. And I don't know what it is, and I have to tell you, Rick, it's been haunting me since. There hasn't been a day that has gone by that I've not repeated what I just told to you, or think about it, or write about it.
Well, you know, several months ago, I read an interview with General Wesley Clark in which he made an astonishing admission, and I would love to get him on the program to tell it here. I don't know if he'll tell it again, but he said that shortly after 9/11, he went into the Pentagon. Of course, he was retired then, but you know, he's former commander of NATO, so you know he can walk in the door and go anywhere he wants. And he was talking to an officer, and this is shortly after 9/11. And the officer said, "General, we're going to attack Iraq." And he said, "Was Saddam Hussein involved in 9/11?" He goes, "No." He goes, "Why are we attacking Iraq?" And the man said, "We have a plan. We're going to attack 10 nations in 5 years." And he handed this document to General Clark, and General Clark said, "Is this classified?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Don't give it to me." He said, "Tell me what's in it." And because legally, if Clark read it, he's now bound by oath that he cannot talk about it. But if verbally told something, he's allowed to talk about it. And the man told him, he said, "There's a plan. We're going to attack 10 nations in 5 years." And he ticked off the nations. And, you know, the last stop was Iran. So, Gerald, somebody has this plan. Somebody has a master plan to remake the world.
I agree. And they're psychopaths is what I'm saying. And they're passed off as normal people. Listen, Marvel comic books could not have come up with a better character than Dick Cheney and George Bush. I mean, really, if you wanted to put, and the same with these other two. I mean, you want to see a two-bit freak show? How about Romney and Ryan standing in front of the battleship Wisconsin, the perfect metaphor, an antiquated relic of two guys standing in front of it that have never fought a day in their lives, that talk tough and want to get other people killed. This is what I'm saying. I have to tell you, after 32 years of the work that I've been doing, and people ask me, where is it going? It's very simple for me. Nothing is going to change until the individuals change. Until enough individuals find within themselves the courage, the dignity, the respect, the integrity and the passion to live their lives in the godly way that they believe, nothing will change. There's this wonderful Hindu saying, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And anybody that's practiced a lot to really get great at something knows what that means. You know, I practiced close combat for many years. I'd had different teachers before I found this one. This was the real one. But I used to practice religiously at the other things I used to do. And whether it's the violin, whatever. When the people are ready, the leaders will appear. The leadership that we are getting now, to me, reflects where the people are. This study that just came out, 3 more states in the United States were ranked as obese. They just added 3 more. You're seeing levels of fat, you could call it fat, that never existed before. I'm 65 years old. I know what it looked like before, and I know what it looks like now. Look what people are doing to themselves. Look at the prescription drugs they're gobbling down. Look how people are behaving toward each other. Are there people out there that are destroying us? Yes. And there are individuals that are destroying themselves. To me, it has to be a morality shift. And I write about economics, politics. I forecast the crash of '87. All this stuff is in writing, the panic of '08, the recessions, the real estate bust, geopolitics, the fall of the Soviet Union. I'm telling you, Rick, something different now. We're at a tipping point in the truest sense. We are facing the first great war of the 21st century, and they'll have Johnny marching off to war again. Flags will be waving, horns will be blowing, and yellow ribbons will be flying, and lives will be needlessly wasted once again. But this time could be the final act.
It's going to come home. It's going to come home to the USA this time.
Yes.
That's my big concern. He's going to come home to the USA. We've got sleeper cells. They've been allowing people to cross the Mexican border for decades, and nobody knows the size of the Trojan horse that's inside this country. And if people think they're going to sit on their sofa with a bowl of popcorn and watch the war on CNN, well, maybe all you're going to have to do, Gerald, is look out your window.
You got it. And then, again, we wrote about New Millennium. I was brought down to VMI in 2000 to talk to the graduating students on New Millennium Warfare, and I had lunch. He wanted to meet me. General Anthony Zinni, who was head of the command of the first Gulf War, was right under Schwarzkopf. And they brought me in as the keynote speaker. Zinni and others were on the panel as I was discussing New Millennium Warfare and what it would look like. And like you said, the Trojan horse, the sleeper cell is a Trojan horse. Yeah, you want to screw up a water supply of a major metropolitan area? It doesn't take a lot. How about a nice suitcase-sized nuke going off in Manhattan? Boy, that would shake things up, wouldn't it? And look at the nuns that just breached America's top nuclear facility. An 82-year-old nun, and they closed the joint down last week.
And I didn't know that Tennessee nuclear facility was the security was given to the British company G4S that couldn't even provide security guards for the Olympics.
This is what I'm saying, Rick. There's nothing out there that we don't see and don't know. It's a criminal operation. The Democrats and the Republicans. Try the Gambinos or the Bonanos, the Lanskys or the Schultzes. It's all it is.
Gerald, is there any doubt in your mind why Homeland Security is stockpiling 750 million rounds of hollow point ammo?
Not at all. I wrote about in the Trends Journal the top 10 trends of top 12 trends of 2012.
The Pentagon can't buy hollow point; it's banned.
They know that this. I mentioned to you at the top of the interview, the first great war of the 21st century is unraveling in front of our eyes. It doesn't start at a flashpoint, like with the assassination of the Archduke Ferdinand, or the sinking of the Lusitania, the bombing of Pearl Harbor. There's events that lead up to that. Those are only flashpoints. We wrote about the National Defense Authorization Act. That little gem
Sure.
that President Obama signed on New Year's Eve when no one was watching, that now allows the military to take over police duties and repeal the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878. And when you look at that, of course, the police have already become military, going back to your hollow points. Look at the way these guys dress. Look what happened in Times Square. A guy wielding a knife. 3 cops. They shot him. Hey, you guys, don't you know how to fight? You don't know how to bring. You got your batons on there. What is the training you went to? You got a madman over there. You're shooting into a crowd. I know how to fight. So what's going on here? They know the systems are breaking down. They're breaking down in front of us. And they're going to want to control us. And that's what they're doing. And that's why they have the National Defense Authorization Act. That's why they have the other parts of the National Defense Authorization Act that could silence people like you and me. You know, I got an email from a guy from Bahrain. He said, thank you for speaking out about what's going on in Bahrain. I'd like to send you more information that you don't hear in the Western news. I said, yes, sure, send it over. This guy starts sending over stuff in Arabic, translated, with words confidential across it. I wrote him back right away. I said, don't send me any more of this. He said, well, it was on the Internet. I just pulled off. I said, don't send me anything. I don't want to hear from you again. You know why? Because I could be accused of having communications with a terrorist.
That's right, and then all of your assets are seized.
Well, assets are seized. I'm seized.
Yeah, you're seized with your assets.
I'm seized.
Well, your asset.
The military comes and takes me.
They're going to seize your asset.
Yeah, you got it. And they could do anything they want. No charges, no judge, no jury, no lawyer.
Nobody will know where you're at. They'll just take you away.
Nobody knows where I'm at. Jack, you're dead.
That's right.
So this is, do they know what's happening? Yes. And here is the freak show. Could you imagine that people believe that Janet Napolitano or the guy Cherkoff before her knew what the hell they were doing in running Homeland Security? Do you really believe that these people are mental geniuses and know what they're doing? Don't you think they got there by sucking their way up to the top? Oh, by the way, I used to be the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. I know what it looks like. Grown men groveling all day long to suck their way up to the top. Oh, that guy Chertoff, what did he do? Got on TV after the phony underpants bomber scam and started telling the whole world that we needed rapid scam to go in to get X-rayed. Oh, by the way, son of a gun, you never said that you represented them in your consulting firm. How much more proof do people need? The LIBOR scandal. They're rigging the game. Everybody knows it. Wall Street. The game is rigged. Insider trading within Congress. Everybody knows it. It's there. It's legal for them. Hey, we make the laws. It's legal for us. Yeah, it's legal for the crime syndicate.
And so they know that the system is imploding, and they're doing what every other regime in history has done, and that is prepare for brutal oppression of the people when the people figure out what's going on.
You got it. No. You know what's going to happen? You know, it's one of my sayings. It was a former Bronx boy. When people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. You got a bunch of hungry, starving, homeless people. You have some nice little wars going on, you know, maybe a terrorist thing, false flag or real. Got a lot of fear going on, people taking to the streets. Oh, yeah, got to stop this anarchy. You know that anarchy. Anybody that disagrees is an anarchist, and what do? They put in some agents provocateur in there, put masks on them, go smash windows, beat up a couple of people, and say, see? You see?
But when the whole system comes down, they can't continue those tactics. All they can do at that point is just brutal suppression. I mean, we reported yesterday, NOAA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, ordering 46,000 rounds of hollow points. I mean, Gerald, what do these people really think that weather forecasters are going to put their lives on the line to defend a federal mobile home in Montana? That these weather forecasters are going to stand there with the revolvers and fire away? I mean, do you really think that's what they're going to do?
You know, I have to tell you, what disappoints me the most in this country is not the military or the police. That the police would take such brutal actions against innocent people.
You heard what happened here in Florida? I mean, we're going by what the woman said.
Which one?
The young woman that was strip searched on the highway in front of her children?
No,
that happened last week.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they stopped her, five male officers, one female. This is according to her lawsuit. It's being reported here in Florida, but they strip searched her on the highway in front of her children. And allegedly, the female officer removed her tampon. This is the new America.
That's what I'm saying. That's what remember what I was saying to you about It's not about economics. It's not about politics. It's about morality.
That's right. And I told our audience back in when the TSA started the groping, I said they're conditioning you for the day that you will be groped, you will be disrobed on the streets, because that's what the Nazis did to the Jews before they killed them.
Yep. And you remember the cover of our Spring Trends Journal? We had a bunch of overweight Americans going on to cattle cars, red, white, and blue. It said, next train to Auschwitz.
And they're going to have bigger cars because we're all fat.
But that's why they have cattle cars. No, it really, America has to get into shape, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And I believe we can have a renaissance. I really do. Look, I put my money where my mouth is and my mind is. I just bought a 1750s building. And as I said, if the first American Revolution could begin here in Kingston, New York, which was one of the prime places, it was a lot of history over here. I believe the second American Revolution could begin. But I want this one to be of the mind, the heart, and the spirit, not of bullets and bombs. That gets you nowhere. Gets nowhere. I mentioned about Germany. Germany will never be the same. What took centuries to build has been destroyed. It will never be the same. And the people are still wounded.
Gerald, speaking of Europe, we're coming up on the September 12th day, and the German court's going to make this ruling. Nobody really knows which way it's going to go unless they pay off the judges and get the ruling that they want. But what I see this September 12th date is in 2008, sometime there around September 10 through the 13th, that's when Lehman Brothers was imploding. And so that's what I'm wondering. Are we getting ready to come up on another massive financial crisis in September, this time centered in Europe?
I think you summed it up in what you said about it in opening the show. I don't believe they're going to. I don't believe they're going to say it's illegal. And I think they're going to let it push through at some point, or even possibly have a referendum on it. But if the courts say that it's in violation of the German Constitution, because they've already violated the Maastricht and Lisbon treaties by the bailouts and the bond buying from the central banks, it's the end of the euro. The euro collapses within weeks, if not days.
Mm-hmm. John Ward in London reported yesterday that construction has stopped for recent weeks at the new European Central Bank Tower of Babel in Frankfurt. They don't know why. All the construction's done. It just stopped. And people are wondering, are they packing up and leaving?
Yeah, so this is really a big one. But, my feeling is I don't know, just my gut feeling, is they'll do something that will be a kind of halfway thing. And as you said, it'll keep the Ponzi scheme going for a little longer.
They'll keep printing more money. Yep. All the central banks will keep flooding the world markets with fake
buying
money.
Worthless bonds.
Gerald,
propping it up.
Gerald, appreciate you giving us time today. Gerald Celente, the publication, and I strongly recommend you subscribe to it. Trends Journal, website trendsresearch.com. Gerald, always a pleasure to have you on the program.
And Rick, it's always a pleasure being on with you. Thank you for all you do.